What's going on, guys? Brian here with Sinister Gaming. Just wanted to showcase my first place Bystial Runick deck profile. This deck is pretty fun, kind of reminds me of Naturia Runick, and Synchro is probably my favorite mechanic from the extra deck other than Xyz. So between those two, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So these are probably the cuttable ones, or ones I have the fluctuation with, but I'd say the rest are pretty much 3 of everything else, as you can see here. I have I'll say a lot of engine in this build. In particular, I just felt like a lot of hand traps just weren't really that strong right now, so I opted just to kind of max out on everything, and it's been treating me pretty well. This deck can kind of just pretty much break a lot of boards with the Runick cards, and I figured since if I want to go first, or when I'm going first, I just want to draw engine, because the boards, I wouldn't say they're unbreakable, but if you have enough engine, you're pretty much just gonna be able to play forever. And there's been awkward game states, which normally I would be losing, but since I'm playing the Runick engine, just kind of keeps me in the game forever, and I just grind my opponent out, even though it doesn't look like I'm advancing my game state too much. So just a grind deck, while also trying to achieve the most consistency with the Runick spells as possible. And then of course we have the 2 fountain. And then I'm gonna go into the tuners after this, just to switch it up a little bit. So of course we have the 3 Quem, but we are also on the Swordsoul package for the Incredible Ecclesia and the Golden Swordsoul. So I was testing Cartesia for a little bit, and it was pretty nice with the Granguin oil, but that's a whole extra deck spot that I didn't want to end up dedicating, but I might consider looking into it again, just based off testing, since people have been ashing and imperming this a lot, which is pretty funny also, because your Hugin's gonna resolve. But I would say most of the time people do hand trap this card, the Quem, and if the Hugin goes through, you just kind of win. And then the Ecclesia, why you would play this is it equates to basically 2 Synchro, or 2 level 4 tuners, because with a Bystial, this can recur the Swordsoul back or a Quem. Pretty much just says when a light or dark is banished while it's on the field to grave, you can banish it and special summon a spellcaster with the same attack and defense. So these both have 15-15. So that's been pretty nice, and a lot of people are starting to catch on to this, but most of the people that I played just had no idea what this did or what I was trying to achieve with this, so it's pretty interesting to see that reaction. And then for the Bystial engine, we have the 1 Aluber, the 3 Lubellion, 2 Saronir, and then 1 of each of the others. You could, based on my testing, I might even bump the Druisworm up, because I think the issue that I primarily see is not having access to Bystials, and I may have too many tuners, so yeah, I could see the Druisworm possibly going up to 2 or maxing out on Saronir, but so far I haven't feel inclined based on the most recent changes that I've made to the deck that I'm gonna discuss in the extra deck mainly, and in the next part, which is the other spells / non-engine. But before that, I just want to say that I am playing the double regains. So these are like the only other flex spots. Is the 2 duality and 1 talents. The talents has been really nice at 1. Might even consider want to bump this up, just based on some latest extra deck changes that I've made that is also related to this. So this card is really good when it's pitched in the graveyard to recycle your stuff and draw, especially if you can't get access to Bystials. However, the on-field effect, or the activated effect, just from the hand, and honestly doesn't really come up. I never have like this and Hugin as an example, or like there might be some type of weird situation where I want to have like multiple Runick cards in my hand, and I want to pitch this instead of the Runick cards to be able to play, so I can actually draw with my fountain. So although, like I said, this has been good for its graveyard effect, the on-field effect is kind of pointless so far. So I'm considering dropping this and just saving myself the extra deck space. So I'm gonna either play Ash or some type of other non-engine card, or possibly just multiple talents, and or a Bystial, extra Bystial. So those are all really good options that I think could work in place of the duality. So that's that. And then for the extra deck, I'm going to go for the duality targets first, since these are likely to change. You can notice that the Malong is in a different sleeve because I already made a change to this deck after winning the first place with it, because I also took this to a VIP qualifier. And yeah, this ended up making the cut for being cut out, just because this is for a Bystial, and you actually can make it with a Hugin and a level 4 tuner, but it's almost never going to come up. At least it hasn't for me out of the like 15 matches or so that I've played with this deck. So the Scarlight has come up, however, but I have not dualitied into it. I actually have hard made it just with a Jerry and a level 4 tuner. And card's pretty funny in grind games, like I said, where it seems like you're not advancing your game state, but your opponent can't break your board. I'll explain right in a little bit after we go through the 10s on how I usually play on my end board, or try to break my board at the same time. But yeah, essentially you can keep recurring this off a Disbatter, and that's one way to keep playing. And then of course this is for Hugin. For the other synchros, these are the other 6s that I play. This is pretty much mandatory. The Coral is not 100% mandatory, but it does give you a decent toolbox if you want to switch up your plays around, or you just run out of this, or just can't recycle it. And yeah, definitely is staying in the deck. So for the 10s, which is probably the most important part of the extra deck other than the Runick fusions themselves, we play most of pretty much the best ones in the game. So Changying, Baron, Chaos Angel, and Dispatter. So a lot of the times what I do is I just don't respect Nib at all, and I'll typically make this first in defense, and then I'll try to use this to extend to the Baron, or just sit on a Chaos Angel in defense. That way, made with a light and a dark. That way this is unaffected by other monster effects, so you can just negate things that are only going to affect these monsters. So that's always really nice. And I kind of use the Baron more to break boards, or unless I absolutely brick and just can't make this, or if I draw no Bystials, then I'll make this for sure. And then Changying's just kind of like the flex pick against certain matchups, really good against Fire King. You know, with any Runick spell, you can pretty much just banish 2 cards, one on the field and one on the grave. And he's just a really annoying card to out, since he also reduces everything's attack for each of the banish, which you're gonna have a lot. But between the best ones, I feel like these 2 are the best. I've even seen like Vanadium players and on like a similar board, which is pretty annoying, which is the Chaos Angel unaffected and the Disbatter in defense. So I kind of just use that with the fountain up to just try to keep playing, and then especially baiting out like imperms and stuff like that. There was one game where I was playing against a Vanadium player that had Dispatter, Chaos Angel, Baron in defense, a Droplet, and the counter trap, and I was able to break the board by making SP Little Knight, banishing, and then baiting out his Droplet, and then just banishing his Dispatter and just sitting on this in defense until I can make my own Dispatter. So I actually ended up winning that game just because of sitting on this. But yeah, Chaos Angel is like the most underrated card in this whole extra deck. And then for the Runick fusions, we just play the 4. Some people I think have played multiple Hugin, and that's come up a little bit for me, just for bodies. But I would say you could definitely get away with the 2. Just have to play right, and then if you are able to establish your Bystial engine, you can always just recycle this with your Branded Regained. And then, you know, Jerry's just for level 4 access, and then Sleipnir. A lot of people don't play this, but it is pretty good for fulfilling the branded regain, since you can banish itself and then another card and just get a draw off of it. And then just baits interruptions. So I use this to try to like break the board a little bit, just to force them to negate it, or SP Little Knight this. So, and then just making your real plays after. And then the last card is SP Little Knight. And this was the change that I made at the 3v3 already, VIP qualifier. So as I mentioned earlier, I was playing the Malong, but instead I'm definitely gonna play 2 SP Little Knight. The SP Little Knight comes up in scenarios where you do not have a Bystial, which you know, you have about a 70% chance of opening one in your combo. But if it just doesn't resolve, or you know, you just don't plain see it, SP Little Knight is definitely going to be your best way of grinding through everything. So like I said, the main goal of this deck is just to 100% grind, and we don't want to build a, well, we could build a bunch of negations to try to win, but typically we can just outpace our opponent with our Runick engine, and the level 4 tuner engine is almost infinite if you have a Bystial, so it's pretty nice. So just having access to 2 of these just really puts your opponent on edge, and you kind of will just auto win the game if you summon 2 in one duel. Lastly, I guess I forgot to mention was the Typhon, which this kind of just comes in when you as a last resort play, but it is pretty good in this deck just for the fact that you have Runick engine. So if you're able to, you know, crack your opponent's board with SP, Sleipnir, and just bait out their interruptions and slap this on top, and then just bounce something, and then just conservatively use your Runick engine to try to like get yourself back in the game. This card is pretty worth it. And then for the side deck, we have the board wipes. You could also play evenly instead. I just like these because even though you could use evenly during the battle phase, if I'm forced to use a Runick card in the draw phase or something, I would kind of prefer that. So, and also like kind of like skipping my battle phase on my first turn when I go second. That way I don't have to wait a whole other turn with evenly like double skipping your battle phase, if that makes sense. So I've been liking these. We have 2 Droplet, just because it's pretty underrated interruption right now, and just plays around weird game states. Yeah, and if you have a battle phase, this card is super good with like SP Little Knight, just negating the board and just swinging over anything, just because most monsters aren't like over 3,000 unless they're like the level 10 synchros, so SP Little Knight can swing over. And then we also have probably like the best cards in the side. I play 9 hand traps in the side, so this could go in the main potentially, like I mentioned. But Droll is good because of Vanadium, Ashes for Lab, the Mirror, and Fire King and stuff like that. And then Nib's just kind of like for Rescue Ace and stuff like that. Overall, these are all pretty good. Nib is possibly debatable just because I feel like no decks completely play into it, but when it drops, it definitely drops hard and can win you games. So probably just keep it in, but slightly debatable on that. And then the last card for wholesome purposes is the Moonin. Surprisingly, I have yet to win with this. So yeah, that's the deck, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Let me know what you think about Bystial Runick in the upcoming meta, or the current meta, I should say. Don't know if I'll play it until Phantom Nightmare. Kind of want to try out Lab with Phantom Nightmare, but this is just a really fun deck to play that's also really good between now and Phantom Nightmare. So I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for something to play in between them. Alright guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.